Welcome everybody to my channel. My name is Rainer. This is Rainierbooks. This is Sunday, the 14th of February of 2021. It's time for number 6, the 6th wrap-up of this year, where I tell you what I have read last week, what else happened in the world and in my life last week, and what is going to be happening next week, at least reading-wise. So, well, let's go on a little walk and then let's get back to a warm room, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, and see the video. Welcome. Actually, the light is really beautiful when you go out. Like, now it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon here, and I'm just on my normal round in my vicinity here in a place called Västertorp, just outside Stockholm. I love the light, but the light is not the camera is not catching the light in all its beauty, and that's a pity. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Valentine. No, that's Clementine. Of course, that's a different song. But today is Valentine's Day. And I'm back in my little apartment. Behind me some boxes, as you can see. The ultimate commercial celebration of romantic and of romance and romantic love in many so-called Western countries around the world. Even Australia and New Zealand regard themselves as Western countries, as you know. I have one idea for Valentine's Day, a book that you could get for your romantic love interest, and this is a book called I Choo-Choo-Choose You, lined paper, cute, funny, romantic journal for him and her as Valentine's Day gift, anniversary gift notebook for the one you love, for your husband, for your wife, or for someone else. That's a beautiful book. Before I went out to my little walk today, which you saw the intro from, I saw U.S. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, some people call him Moscow Mitch, deliver a speech last night after he voted not guilty on the impeachment of the former president. In his speech, Mr. McConnell said very clearly that it was the former president who was utterly responsible for what happened in Washington, D.C. on January the 6th this year. But he still didn't want to give his vote supporting what he believed in. And that is so typical. And I won't say anything more. That is really such a typical thing to do by this party. Let's get on with the next topic. I finished not one. Let's get to the books now. I finished not one, my friends. I finished 2 books last week. And this is such an achievement in my reader's life because I'm a slow reader. I usually do 1 book per week, and I read in a couple of books more, but I don't finish usually more than 1 book per week. So this is 2. This is incredible. This is a success. This is so great. The first one that I finished was Yasunari Kawabata's, it's a very slim novel, but not so easy to read, I promise. Novel Snow Country that he wrote somehow. I think he started already in the 1940s. He finished it in the 1950s, and this edition, I think, the text here was ready in 1958. It was translated from the Japanese by the great American expert in Japanese literature, Edward G. Seidensticker, or should I say Seidensticker, because this sounds so German, this name. Yasunari Kawabata's book is a work of beauty and strangeness, distinguished and moving, said the New York Herald Tribune many years ago about this beautiful book, which is a Penguin classic, and they are so right. This plays in an onsen. Onsen is a hot spring bath town in not in northern Japan actually, but north of Tokyo. When you take the train from Tokyo up north, I think you change trains somewhere in Nagoya. You go to Nagoya and then you go up north. You will end up in a place called Utsawa and Shimamura. That's the male character of this novel. Shimamura is a rich guy married with children in Tokyo, and he goes to Yinzawa, to this onsen town. He's a Tokyo going to this onsen town. Who is it? And what is it that draws him to this onsen town? It's a 19-year-old girl, beautiful girl named Komako. But they never really get close to each other. They have occasional sexual intercourse, but they never get really close to each other for some reasons, because they cannot communicate. So much knowledge of Japanese culture necessary, even of the history, because in the 1950s, relationships between men and women were probably not only different in Japan, but also in Sweden, also in Germany. And also in the United States. So this is difficult to understand. A lot of Japanese culture in this book with kimonos and how they are made in the winter that we Westerners don't understand perfectly well in this very sparse, poetic, but beautiful novel from the 1950s. I enjoyed it, though both Shimamura and Komako stayed sort of strange or distant acquaintances of myself throughout the whole novel. This very morning, I shed some tears. I shed tears almost every day in the last 2 weeks. I literally cried. I'm a man who's not ashamed to say that I cry from time to time. When you read this book, No Fixed Abode, Death and Homelessness, no, Life and Death Among the UK's Forgotten Homeless, and you don't cry, then you should go and see a therapist, because this is such a sad, uplifting, beautiful, necessary book. This is one of the greatest non-fiction books that I've ever read in my entire life, I promise. And I am an older guy. So Maeve McClenahan has written a very important book here about homelessness in the UK, which has grown vastly since the year of 2000. Let me read one paragraph for you from this book to show. There could be so many paragraphs from the stories that she tells, and I will do a single review about both the book and about the topic of homelessness with more books that you could read about it. And yet, homelessness continues to rise. The Charity Crisis predicts the number of core homeless, rough sleepers, those in unsuitable temporary accommodation, sofa surfers, could increase 2.5 times by 2041. The only way to stop that, and to stop more people dying homeless, is to get to grips with the myriad causes that plunge people into poverty and homelessness in the first place. The more I learned about Jane, Hamid, Richard, David, Stacy, the more I understood the weak points in the safety net, the missing holes from the planes. I now understood so much more about the multifaceted nature of the issue that the UK is facing. There is no one cause for homelessness, but there are clear patterns which I saw time and time again. It is incontrovertible that more than a decade of austerity measures has cut away the safety net below us. Perhaps those cuts are most acute at the level of local councils who are responsible for adult social services, substance abuse, programs, child protection, council homes, indeed most of what we think of as the safety net. They have seen their budgets cut by central government by 21% between 2010 and 2019. Those same councils also have to keep the streetlights on, the bins collected, the parks open. With a fifth of the budget gone, it is often the things invisible to most people which get cut. The domestic violence refuges, the drug support services, the help for those in so-called supported housing. The cuts affect councils run by all the major political parties, Labour, Conservatives. I saw councils of all colours cutting vital life-saving services. Those cuts have become so relentless, quiet and consistent that we as a nation have somehow come to accept them. Like frogs in slowly boiling water, we have sat and watched as libraries have closed, food banks have opened, and more people have found themselves homeless, living in bed and breakfasts, cars, doorways. The newspaper reporting that has tried to flex some of the cuts has often been a Cassandra-esque warning, clear in its prophecy and yet brushed aside with slogans like "We're all in this together." We all begrudgingly accepted that the 2008 global financial crash changed things for everyone and somehow forgave the bank's bailout and the following reduction in corporation tax while accepting the myriad cuts that hit our social services. It is the ensuing poverty and inequality that is the key driver in our rising homeless figures. When I started my research, I had heard the much repeated adage that we are all only a few missed paychecks away from homelessness. It is a neat image, one that makes everyone sit up and think, but the truth is that those who have families with resources they are willing to share, those who have robust enough mental health and who are not surrounded daily by the lure of drink or drugs, those who aren't carrying festering, untreated childhood trauma, they are the ones who are going to find it easiest to bounce back from a low period. And I could go on and on. This is such an important book. Please read this. And please never ever look away when you see homeless people on your streets, as I did in London 2 years ago. Wow, a great read, and I was still really touched by this. Would love to talk and to speak to Maeve McClenahan. Booktube has, in the last week, discussed a lot of questions. There are always beautiful discussions on Booktube. And Booktube has discussed questions concerning subscribers, concerning likes, and concerning dislikes to videos. I saw videos by Hannah at Hannah and Her Books. I saw Brian's hodgepodge yesterday, Brian from Bookish, who is discussing the same issue. I have, in my little channel, a very few dislikes, which is grounded in the fact, I guess, that I'm a very small booktuber. I'm not playing, if you take it from football or soccer, I don't play Premier League. I don't even play Championship. Maybe I play the upper half of the English Football League One, which is the third division. And I'm quite happy with that right now. So that protects us also, smaller booktubers, from too many dislikes. The most I got was 4, maybe 5, when I denounced the breaching of the US Capitol on January the 6th in very strong words. In that video, I got the most dislikes ever. And of course, I used the former president, for example, in a tag in the background. And maybe that has attracted some of his supporters who may have breached the Capitol by themselves or who liked the action taking. So that's it. That's okay. Tougher it is when people unsubscribe. I've realized that sometimes I lose subscribers. And you always feel really bad about losing subscribers, don't you? Oh my God, I lost 2 subscribers. What happened? What did I do? But it's, as Hannah says in Hannah and Her Books, usually you haven't done anything, so don't worry. Because life is, as we all know, life is limited. And even our time on Booktube is limited. We have other things to do. We have to make meals, we have to buy groceries, we have to read, haven't we? And then we are not able to watch all the videos from all of the great booktubers out there. As Hannah has pointed out, sometimes we quickly subscribe to channels and sometimes we quickly, or not we quickly, but we unsubscribe to channels because channels don't deal with the same kind of niches, the same kind of books that we discuss, that we read. I don't do fantasy, I don't do romance, for example. I'm an unromantic guy without fantasy, so I do other books, and we chose to unsubscribe some channels. That's that, and it's not the end of the world as we know it. I'm not going to sing the song now because I did it before in one of my videos, I think last summer. Let's go to the post-Soviet book club for a while, because some of you have asked, how are we going to do this? I'm interested. Someone asked me if we're going to read the same book in a book club, like that we say, okay, next month we read this Czech novel. That's it. Or if we choose from a bunch of books. And I think that's a better solution. That's what I thought, to have a bibliography where maybe if I host the book on my own, I would give 3 or 4, let's say 4 titles per month, which the book club is going to read, and then everybody can choose one of these 4 books. That could be a good suggestion, I guess. So, and I don't want to read post-Soviet literature every month because we have so many other things to do, so many other projects here on Booktube. So I thought that every second month, one novel, one book. Can also be poetry. I found great poetry yesterday for this list, which I'm still going to produce. My suggestion is that we read one book every second month, starting on May 1st of 2021. That gives us enough time to really find a great bunch of books that are interesting. And then we start in May 2021, continue in July, September, November, January, March, and finally May of 2022, which makes it necessary to have 7 times 4 books, which means 28 books on a list. I probably will set it up on a Google Doc. If any one of you has a better idea, please let me know. But Google Docs sounds good. I've seen this done by Margaret Pennard. She has done this in a beautiful way for her wonderful book club, Arch of the Moderns. Yes, that's what it's called, where we are going to read books from 1901 to 1950. And a question here, is there really not anyone out there who would love to read E.M. Forster's classical novel, A Passage to India, with me? Because that's how I introduce myself on that list. So no one wants to read A Passage to India right now with me. Let me know, please. And let me also know about the post-Soviet book club. I will research more books and I will talk more about this next week. And then I need some time, and we all need some time, especially when you're not living in an English-speaking country, to get these books. Because getting books is much more and more difficult because of the pandemic, but also because that the United Kingdom has decided to say, we leave the European Union, bye-bye. Reading next week. I continue my bedtime reading by reading Andrew Marance's book Antisocial, about the new media and the alternative right, which I'm progressing slowly, but I'm progressing. I will start, because I finished 2 books, I can start a couple of new books. I have to do some library readings now, and I'm glad that I can read Isabel WIlkerson's Caste, The Lies That Divide Us. I will start this about caste in the United States, in India, and in Germany. I will continue reading Bonnioe Campbell's book Once Upon a River, which was a result of the Booktube spin, number 15, you remember? And I will sort of treat myself with a thriller. Sometimes you have to treat yourself with a thriller, and I treat myself with a Scottish thriller, and this should be something for Margaret, shouldn't it? Because she loves Scotland. This is Ian Rankin, A Song for the Dark Times, which is, I think, his, 23rd or something novel with now retired Inspector John Rebus, where his daughter rings him in the middle of the night, telling him, my husband is missing. And John Rebus gets on the case, and he knows that maybe this time he doesn't want to find the truth in that case. That's the 3rd book that I'm going to start during the next week, maybe even tonight. So that's everything. Now, virus-wise, I wrote here, the variants really make me worry. It looks like the pandemic is not going to end during this year, I guess, and maybe not even the next year, because the South African variant is really, really worrisome. There's an article in the Washington Post. Read it or don't read it if you are scared. South African variant sounds pretty dangerous. That's all in my weekly wrap-up. On Tuesday, you can see me do the A to J tag. I have already done that video yesterday. Thursday is probably the time where I speak about homelessness and Maeve McClenahan's amazing book, No Fixed Abode. So wear a mask, socially distance. Stay safe, and I see you on Tuesday. Please write down in the comments below if you like this video, if you have any comments, if you have suggestions concerning the Post-Soviet Book Club, and I see you very soon, and I thank you so much for your attention and for your kind words. Bye-bye.